Hello everyone, I'm very happy to be here. This is my lightning talk about open source as a junior developer. So through this talk, I would like to share with you a bit of my experience from becoming a Nuxt contributor when I was a junior. I do hope this will help you to jump into open source. So this talk is addressed to everyone, not only juniors, and I hope you can relate to it. Let me introduce myself. So my name is Julien. I work as a front-end developer at Leetchi in France. I'm currently a Nuxt contributor in my spare time. Um, some of you may know me on GitHub or as Did I Hear server components during the Nuxt office hours. So I started learning programming 3 years ago and began contributing to open source, more specifically to the Nuxt ecosystem a year and a half ago. About the beginning of my open source journey, my first public GitHub commit was made last year. It was the initial commit for a Nuxt module that enables a Vue Bundle. For those who are already into open source, I believe you will have a similar kind of first commit. Regarding the story of this module, back in the early days of Nuxt 3, even before the initial release, I wanted to upgrade a work-in-progress project from Nuxt 2 to the latest version to try out some new features. However, there was one thing missing, which was a runtime bundle of Vue 3, and that was something that could be easily set up on Nuxt 2 by looking at Stack Overflow. So I thought it would be nice to have this feature again. That's why I started to dive into the source code of Nuxt. And creating this module allowed me to gain a better understanding of how the framework works. And that's how I began to take some issues on Nuxt. So this was basically the beginning of my journey as a Nuxt contributor. And this is an example of how you can start doing open source contributions to an existing project. Usually people start to contribute to open source project because they need something on this project, then dive into the source code to make a fix, a feature, or improve the documentation, and bam, that's how you are a contributor. So I don't know how many of you here are interested in making contributions, but I have a feeling that many developers, especially juniors, are quite hesitant to make pull requests to open source projects. I can relate to it because I've been also in this situation once. In my opinion, people don't have issues with opening feature requests or new issues. However, they may face difficulties when opening pull requests, especially when it comes to modify code they are not familiar with. So here's an advice. Don't be afraid and open a PR. I often see a lot of PR from developers saying something implying they are not confident. But open source is not only about sharing code. It's projects that are built not only by a team, but also by many people outside the team that don't know each other's, from junior to seniors, from a first-time contribution to a second, third, or even 20 years time. And this is how communities are made. So I talked a lot about contribution, but what is it exactly? A contribution is anything that can improve an open source project. As you may know, there are many ways to actively support and contribute to open source, aside from financial contribution. The easiest way would be to report any issues you encounter and can reproduce. It can be also helping maintainers to debug an issue, triaging them, of course, pull requests, but also documentation improvement. Let me explain to you what some of these are. So let's start with bug reporting. So creating a bug report is helpful for the community. It allows for everyone to be aware that there is a bug and for maintainers to know that something needs to be fixed. When creating a bug report on Nuxt, a few things is mandatory. Let's start with the title, which needs to be precise and clear because it's the first thing maintainers see. Then your environment, because the bug can depend on your runtime environment, your modules, or even your configuration. Minimal reproduction so maintainers can quickly see what is wrong, and the description of the bug. Then we have issue triaging. Well, this is something very helpful for maintainers because sorting issues takes a lot of time as someone needs to figure out if the issues is duplicated or not, and then investigate to determine if it's a real bug. As you can see on the Nuxt core repository, the work behind it can be absolutely huge due to multiple factors, such as the numbers of users, the size of the maintainer team, the age of the project, or bugs that don't have a proper production. I think we can all agree that Daniel has been doing an amazing job, and I saw that many people are also trying to help by triaging issues. So then also have pull requests, which are also active contributions. It's basically bringing your modification into the repository of a project. If you wish to contribute to an open source project, there's usually a contribution guide so you know how to get started, and don't hesitate to seek help from maintainers. They are usually always happy to help someone on improving their project. And lastly, we also have documentation improvements. I personally think this is probably the hardest thing to maintain because many of us here are not native English speakers. It can be sometimes challenging to translate our thoughts into another language. And also, writing documentation is a true skill. It's crucial for any project to ensure that the documentations are understandable to the majority of people. And words can be subjective, and explaining something in an understandable way is definitively not an easy task. So now that you know what a contribution is, what are the benefits of contributing to an open source project, especially a big one such as Nuxt? Let's start with juniors. Well, as a junior developer, you may have a lot to learn. Contributing to open source project can help you to gain knowledge and skills that are crucial to your growth as a developer. Let's take my own experience as an example. I wasn't honestly very aware of good practices and testing. Contributing to Nuxt gave me the opportunity to learn unit and end-to-end testing. Another benefit of contributing to open source as a junior is the opportunity to showcase your skills. Juniors often face difficulties when searching for a job. However, having contributions to open source can be particularly advantageous during the job research process, especially for jobs that require knowledge on some open source libraries or frameworks. Contributions demonstrate your ability to work collaboratively, showcase your coding skills, highlights your commitment to learn and improve something. And even if you're not junior, by working on this project, you can collaborate with other developers and receive feedback that will still improve your coding skills. It can also help you develop very important soft skills such as teamworking or communication, which can be even applied in your daily life. Additionally, contributing to open source, you can give back to the community and make a positive impact on the development of a project. That being said, contributing to open source project can also come with its own set of challenges. One of the biggest challenges is simply to have time. We all have a life, and it's clear that doing open source takes a lot of time. However, unlike in a job position, you don't have any roadmap pressure or anything else on your shoulders when you do it as a hobby. Another one is to feel not legitimate when you open a PR or issue. But rest assured, there is no bad issue report or PR. If you misunderstood how to use something, this can also mean that the documentation can be improved. And I also said in the beginning that communities are made of developers from all levels of experience. And more generally, by entering into the open source world, you will get a chance to learn from and connect to various experienced people, such as Daniel, Puya, Harlan, Anthony. There's too many names to quote, but I don't have enough time. And for maintainers, it is a chance to get the point of view of someone who is using the project. So it's all about giving and receiving. Maintainers will receive your help, your time, and your point of view on the project, while you receive also knowledge, boosting confidence and new skills, and even more. So if you wish to contribute to the Nuxt repository by solving some of its issues, you can start by taking a look at issues labeled as documentation or good first issues. So good first issues are issues that have a clear scope so you know where to look at to fix it. We also have a contribution guide, available on GitHub and Nuxt.com. And As a member of the Nuxt community, I can assure you that maintainers and everyone involved are committed to ensure a positive experience for all newcomers. So to wrap up, contributing to open source can be a valuable experience. It's not only fun, but also helps you to gain new skills, improve your soft skills, and develop your career. Additionally, you will have the opportunity to connect with amazing people. And while it may come with challenges, it's an incomparable experience to accelerate your growth as a developer. So it was a very quick talk. That was pretty much everything. Thanks you for listening to me.
Yay, thank you. That was great. We do have 3 quick questions for you. All right. Question number 1. What are the biggest advantages of open source technologies?
Well, first is that everything has been already made. So you don't have to rewrite a lot of code. And open source, um, more generally, open source technologies are made to be generic. So many projects can use this technology and have their own implementation then.
Awesome. Thank
And
you.
yeah. So try to imagine that we did not have open source technologies. What would be the web development today?
Oh, that leads really well into the second question of what are the biggest drawbacks of open source tech?
Well, um, well, because I'm working in a company, I would say one of the drawback would be that you depend uh, on something that is not created by you. So when you're having a bug in an external library or framework, you have to dive into well, you can spend a lot of time to try to find what's the source of a specific bug.
That
So
makes
I
sense. That makes sense. All
I mean
right.
yeah, but I mean you have so much advantages from using open source tech. Yeah, so I don't know what I mean. The advantages will be always much more than the drawbacks.
Definitely. Last question. What tips would you give if someone wanted to get into open source full time?
Well, I wish I could get into open source full time. No, seriously, so don't try to make money as first motivation of doing open source. Um, Open source is mainly about giving and receiving in form like an exchange. So you give all your knowledge while you receive something that has been written by another people. And yeah, I think you have to start doing it as a hobby when you have on your free time, because to be honest, you can't start doing open source full time and uh, make a living of it.
That makes sense. Something that came to mind was there's OSPO jobs, which are open source program offices that some companies have to hire full time maintainers, yet those jobs are hard to come by. So I appreciate the way you explain that because yes, there may be jobs out there, but having money as the intent can take away from the contributions someone can give. So, thank you. This was great and looking forward to having you back someday.
Thank you for having me.